Good day, classmates. Good day, Doc Camarce. Today, I'm going to discuss the non-psychometric forms of assessment, or specifically the interviews and checklists and rating skills. One of the most common non-psychometric assessment is the interview, wherein this method is used for gathering data and information about an individual or a group. The information gathered using interview is used to describe an individual, make future predictions, or both. Like any other test, interview involves interaction of two or more people. So sa interview, pwede itong between sa dalawang tao lang, or pwede rin namang in a group. Okay? Some interviews proceed likely individual administered test, with the interviewer interacting with a single individual at a time. In others, such as the family interview, a single interviewer works with two or more individuals at the same time, or as in a group test. Like all tests, an interview has defined purpose. Furthermore, just as the person who gives a test must take responsibility for the test administration process, so the interviewer must assume responsibility for the conduct of the interview. Many tests, such as thematic perception test, or TAT, cannot be properly used without adequate interview data. Okay, so interview remains one of the most prevalent selection devices for employment. So hindi lang natin ginagamit yung interview sa pag-assess ng individual, no? Or hindi lang siya ginagamit sa mga psychological works natin, no? Ginagamit din ito sa selection process para sa employment sa mga companies natin. And also, no, since isa ito sa mga common na assessment na ginagawa natin, no, madalas, no, ito ay nakikita rin natin sa ating mga pang-araw-araw na ginagawa, no, tulad na lamang sa television, no, sa mga reporters natin, they use interview to gather information or data from other people, no, para makolate nila yung mga data na yun and to present sa ating mga audience. Okay? Now, we have this what we call a structured interview, wherein the interviewer asks a specific set of questions. In the structured standardized interview, these questions are printed. The interviewer reads the question in specific order or sequence. So, sa structured interview, meron na tayong set of questions na ginagamit, no? Kung ito yung mga questions natin, no, ito ay tinutumbasan natin ng sagot, no? Whereas, kapag sinabi naman po nating unstructured interview, there are no specific questions or guidelines for the interviewer to follow. Thus, each unstructured interview is unique, no? Such interviews provide considerable flexibility at the expense of data stability. So sa counseling, no, ito yung ating madalas na ginagamit, yung unstructured interview, no? Why? Kasi yung mga questions natin ay base doon sa mga informations na sinishare sa atin ng ating mga counselees, no? So wala talaga tayong specific na set of questions lang. So hindi lang tayo nakakulong sa specific set of questions, no? Depende doon sa sasabihin ng ating counselee yung mga susunod nating follow-up questions for us, no, to better understand the situation of our client, no. Magagamit natin yung mga data na yon so kung paano naman natin gagawa ng intervention yung ating mga clients. Naturally, specific interviewing techniques and approaches vary depending on such factors as the type of interview. Is it for employment or for diagnostic, and the goals of the interviewer? Ito ba ay for description or for prediction? Thus, there are no actual set rules that apply in all interviewing situations, but some principles facilitate the conduct of almost any interview. First in line, we have to be mindful of the proper attitudes when we are conducting interviews, no? Of course, sabi ko nga kanina, no, tulad ng mga iba pang mga assessments natin, the main goal of the interview, no, is to gather data from our client, no? And for us to extract data from our client, no, we have to establish muna yung trust ng client natin sa atin, no? So uh, we have to be warm, no? We have to be genuine to them, no? They must feel that they are accepted, no? We have to be understanding, of course, and we have to show that we are open, no, sa kanilang mga nararanasan, sa mga gusto nilang i-open up sa atin. And of course, we have to be honest, no? And we have to maintain or to ensure that we are fair, okay? The good interviewing is actually more matter of an attitude than skill. Now, it is also important for us to avoid unnecessary responses, no? So, when we say unnecessary responses, ito yung mga response na ginagawa natin, no, when you are conducting interviews na maaaring nagiging factor para hindi makapag-open up sa atin yung client natin. Once na hindi siya makapag-open up sa atin, no, magkakaroon tayo ng boundary sa kanila, at yung boundary na yun, no, ayun yung nagiging dahilan, no, para hindi maging comfortable sa atin yung ating client, no. Making interviewees feel uncomfortable tends to place them on guard, and guarded or anxious interviewees tend to reveal little information about themselves. So sometimes, no, minsan nga pinepeke na lang nila yung information na binibigay sa atin, no, para lang matapos na yung interview na ginagawa natin, since hindi nga sila comfortable sa atin. If the goal is to elicit such information as possible, or to receive a good rating from the interviewee, then interviewers should avoid certain responses, no? Ano yung mga responses na yon? Ito yung pagiging judgmental, no, or yung evaluative statements natin, probing statements, yung hostility and false reassurance to our client. Okay? So isa-isahin natin. Now, being judgmental means evaluating the thoughts, feelings, or actions of another, no? When we use such term as good, bad, excellent, terrible, disgusting, disgraceful, and stupid, we make evaluative statements, no? We have to be careful when we are using this kind of words, no? Lalo pag nagkakandak tayo ng interview. Why? No? Kasi maaaring ito yung nagiging judgment natin sa situation ng ating client, pero no, hindi iisa, no, yung ating pananaw doon sa kanyang situation. Maaaring para sa atin, yung situation niya ay terrible, no, pero sa ating client, hindi niya tanggap na yung situation niya ay terrible, no. Maaaring para sa atin ay excellent, no, yung kanyang sinasabi, yung kanyang nararanasan, pero para sa kanya, hindi excellent yun. No? So, nagkakaroon tayo ng judgment, no, when we are making or when we are stating evaluative statements. So, we have to be mindful, we have to be careful when we are using such terms. Most interviewers should also avoid probing statements. This demand more information that interviewee wishes to provide voluntarily. No? The most common way to phrase a probing statement is to ask a question that begins with why. No? Asking why tends to place others on the defensive mode. When we ask why, as in why did you stay out late? No? We are demanding that the person must explain his or her behavior. Now, yung demand natin na yon na mag-explain ng kanyang behavior, no, such demand has an obvious judgmental quality, no? The mere fact na nagtatanong tayo ng why, no? Maaaring ito ay nagpapakita na agad ng judgment natin doon sa ating client. Okay? In probing, we may induce the interviewee to reveal something that he or she is not yet ready to reveal. Okay? Sometimes yung paggamit natin ng why, no? Ayan. So, maaaring ito kasi ay mag-trigger sa client natin or ma-interpret ito ng client natin na masyado nating kinakalkal yung kanyang situation o yung mga informations, no? Nakakalimutan natin, no, that we have to respect the privacy ng ating client. So may mga times talaga, no, na hindi pa talaga kayang i-open up ni client natin yung kanyang situation na yon, no, or hindi pa siya comfortable na i-share yun sa atin, and that's okay, no. Hindi natin pwedeng ipilit yung mga bagay na yon, no. We have to be reminded, no, na yung client natin, siya pa rin yung may authority sa kanyang buhay, no? Hindi tayo basta-basta lang kuha ng information, no? Kailangan nirerespeto rin natin siya bilang tao. Okay? If this happens, the interviewee will probably feel anxious and thus not well disposed to revealing additional information. So probably ang mangyayari niyan, no, maaring pekiin na lang ni client yung mga information na sasabihin niya sa atin, no. At kapag nangyari yon, hindi natin makukuha yung tamang information, no. Hindi tayo makakagawa ng isang program or ng approach, no, or intervention na makakatulong sa kanya kasi nga hindi tama yung binibigay niya na information. Ito ay nagmumula dahil sa hindi pa nga siya ready magbigay ng tamang or ng totoong information na magagaling sa kanya, no? So mahalaga yung pag-build natin ng trust sa ating client, no? Para maging smooth, no? Mabuo natin yung trust sa kanya at sa atin at maging komportable siya sa pagbibigay ng mga information sa atin. Next, the reassuring statements attempts to comfort or support the interviewee, no? Yung mga paggamit po natin ng don't worry, everything will be alright, no? Although etong mga reassurance na ito, no, ay appropriate, no, but sometimes, no, we have to avoid false reassurance, no? So tatanong natin, bakit kaya ganun, no? Siguro ay yung iniisip natin ngayon, no? For example, no, halimbawa meron tayong kaibigan, no, na siya ay na kick out sa kanyang school, no? Tapos nawalan pa siya ng trabaho, no? At dahil sa nawalan siya ng trabaho, nawala siya dun sa kanyang school, no? Siya ay napalaya sa kanilang bahay, no? Pinalayan siya ng parents niya. Now, tayo ay nagsisinungaling sa kanya kung sasabihin natin sa kanya na huwag kang mag-alala, no? Wala yang problema mo, lahat naman ito ay okay lang, no? Kasi hindi naman talaga okay yung nangyayari. Hindi okay na mawalan ka ng trabaho, hindi okay na ma-kick out ka sa school, no? At lalong hindi okay na palayasin ka sa bahay ninyo, no? So sometimes yung paggamit natin ng mga reassuring statements, so dapat we have to be mindful din, no, kung ito ba ay dapat nating sabihin, no, kung pag sinabi ba natin ito ba ay totoo or makakatulong ba to sa situation ng client natin, no? Yan. This false reassurance does nothing to help your friend except perhaps make her realize that you are not going to help her, no? Syempre mararamdaman niya ng ating friend or ng ating client, no, or ng ating students, no, since hindi nga tugma yung ating statement sa kanya based sa kanyang situation, no, makakaramdam siya na itong tao na to ay hindi naman makakatulong sa akin. No, ano naman yung mga effective responses natin na when we are conducting interviews? One of major principle of effective interviewing is keeping the interaction flowing, no? So make it more natural lang. Okay? Para mas maging magaan lang, maging light lang yung conversation natin, no? Para maging komportable sa atin yung ating client, at pag siya ay komportable nakausap tayo, no, most probably lahat ng information na kanyang sasabihin sa atin ay totoo. Okay? The interview is a two-way process. One person speaks first, then the other, and so on. No? The interviewer usually exerts a minimum amount of effort to keep the interaction flowing. No? Kailangan din nating, no, maging mindful doon sa ating mga sinasabi, no, kasi baka mamaya imbes na tayo ay nag-i-interview, no, ang lumalabas tayo na yung ini-interview, dahil mas madalas tayong magsalita kaysa doon sa ating client, no, na dapat siya ay nag-feed ng mga information sa mga data na makukuha natin, no. As long as the interviewee's verbalization relate to the purpose of the interview, the interviewer listens with interest by maintaining face-to-face contact, no. For as long as nandoon naman yung relationship, no, maayos naman yung flow ng interview natin, no, ando naman yung eye contact, no, at ando naman yung attention ng bawat isa, no, habang nag-i-interview, no, we can say na effective yung interview natin. A close-ended question brings the interview to a dead halt, thus violating the principle of keeping the interaction flowing, no. Open-ended questions give the interviewee wide latitude in choosing the topics that he or she feels are important, no. Yung mga closed-ended questions natin, no, I know mahirap or mahirap siguro para sa atin, no, na hindi gumamit ng mga close-ended questions. Actually, hindi naman talaga sa hindi pwedeng gumamit ng close-ended questions. Pero kung may iba pang paraan, no, para yung magiging tanong natin ay hindi siya answerable lang ng yes or no, no, para mas ma-extract pa natin yung data na kinukuha natin doon sa client natin, no. Kasi kapag yung questions natin ay closed-ended, no, pag sinagot niya ng yes or no, ano nang sunod, no? Matatapos na lang yung conversations natin. Di ba nga dapat kailangan smooth flowing lang yung ating conversation. So it is highly encouraged, no, for us to use open-ended questions para nang sa ganun, no, mas matagal yung time, no, o yung spotlight doon sa ating client, no, para mas masabi niya yung kanyang gustong sabihin or gustong i-share, no. The open-ended questions requires the interviewee to produce something spontaneously, while the closed-ended questions to recall something. Okay? Now, it is important for us to know what are the responses that we have to do, no, to keep the interaction flowing, no. We have the transitional phrase, no, yung paggamit natin ng yes, I see, go on, no. Sa Tagalog, yung mga paggamit natin ng mga okay, sige, tuloy mo lang, no? Para nang sa ganun, maramdaman din ng client natin na tayo ay talagang attentive sa kanyang sinasabi, no? At kapag naramdaman niya na tayo ay attentive sa kanyang sinasabi, no, na andun yung presence natin sa interview na ginagawa natin, mas na-encourage siya na mag-share, no? And also yung verbatim playback, no? Or yung pag-repeat ng ating pag-repeat natin sa mga sinasabi ng clients natin, o pwede rin itong tawagin na echoing, no? Kumbaga, uulitin natin yung sinasabi ng ating client, no? Para nang sa ganun, maramdaman din niya na tayo ay talagang nakikinig sa kanya, no? Para maging smooth lang din yung flow ng ating interview. And also, we can do paraphrasing and restatement, o yung Kung hindi mo natin kayang ulitin yung exact words na binanggit ng client natin, no? Pwede nating i-paraphrase 'yon, no? Para nang sa ganun, magkaroon din ng ibang view naman yung client natin tungkol sa kanyang sinasabi, no? And also, we can do summarizing, no, or pulling together the meaning of several responses. So, of course, may mga responses yung client natin, or sometimes talaga medyo magulo yung mga sinasabi o yung mga lumalabas na information sa ating clients, no? Para malaman natin o para ma-prove natin kung tama ba, no, yung kanyang tama ba yung interpretation natin doon sa kanyang maraming mga sinasabi, no? Pwede natin i-summarize, no? Now, pwede nating sabihin sa kanya o itanong sa kanya kung tama ba yung information na narinig mo o yung pagkakasummarize mo based doon sa mga sinabi niya, no? And pwede rin tayong mag-clarify sa clients natin o pwede nating tanungin sa kanya, tama ba? So ibig sabihin, based sa sinabi mo, ito yung gusto mong mangyari. So tama ba ito yung sinabi mo kanina? No? Para nang sa ganun, no, alam ng clients natin na tayo ay concern or tayo ay andun yung presence natin, attentive tayo sa kanyang mga sinasabi, no? And also, kailangan maramdaman din ng ating clients na tayo ay empathic and understanding, no? We need to be empathic and understanding. Sabi ko nga kanina, no, kasi no, kapag hindi tayo magiging empathic and understanding sa ating clients, no, mararamdaman nila that they are not safe, no? That yung mga informations nila ay kailangan nilang itago na lang, no? Kasi nga hindi sila nakakaramdam ng pagiging safe doon sa atin at yung trust ay wala. Checklist and rating scales are tools that state specific criteria and allow teachers and students to gather information and to make judgment about what students know and can do in relation to the outcomes. They are offering systematic ways of collecting data about specific behaviors, knowledge, and skills. So as we all know, no, itong checklist naman po ay hindi naman po ito bago na sa atin. Now actually, ito pong paggamit ng checklist, no, sa isang assessment, no, hindi lang naman ito applicable sa pag-assess ng behavior ng mga students. So kahit sa ibang mga task or work, no, gumagamit din tayo ng checklist para malaman natin yung existence ng isang bagay o yung functionality ng bagay na yon, no? Usually itong mga items under ng checklist natin, this is answerable by yes or no. So saan ba natin ginagamit? Usually ginagamit yung checklist natin as form of assessment. So number 1, to record observed performance, no? While students work in small groups, you might note whether or not individuals demonstrate ability or knowledge in some predetermined categories aligned to course content and objectives, no? So para makita natin kamusta ba yung performance ng estudyante natin based sa ating observation, no? Siya ba ay nagpa-participate sa class? Siya ba ay nakakahabol sa mga lessons? Siya ba ay nakakapag-collaborate sa mga classmates niya? Kamusta ba yung behavior niya sa klase? Hindi ba siya disruptive doon sa mga classmates niya? Okay? At siya ba ay nag-manifest ng proper behavior sa loob ng classroom? Checklist can also be used for self-assessment. So ito po yung sinasabi ko kanina na hindi lang students or hindi lang tayo yung pwedeng mag-conduct nito sa students natin, no? Ito pong checklist, no, pwede natin itong gamitin for our self-assessment. So ganun din po sa mga student natin, pwede po silang mag-assess ng kanila mismong sarili. Okay? So using the example kanina, itong activities checklist, ito pong number 1, no, yung can name 5 sports, okay? Pwede po natin itong baguhin, no, or dagdagan na lang natin siya ng I can name 5 sports. Okay, and then this is again answerable in yes or no. Okay, and also pangatlo po na gamit nitong checklist natin, no, is to keep track of progress over time, no. For example, a checklist could be used as an inventory skills at the beginning and end of a course. This type of checklist might form part of a portfolio. No, so para malaman natin kung meron bang progress, no, yung ating client, no, after niya doong makag-undergo ng isang program or after ng isang topic, kung meron bang knowledge na nakuha or skills na nakuha yung ating students. So following the example below, etong receptive oral skills natin. So i-check lang nila, no, kung naintindihan ba no, yung mga simple directions, yung mga simple sentences, and so on and so forth. No, checkan lang din natin kung na-observe ba natin itong mga ganitong behavior doon sa ating students. Let us now discuss rating scales, no? Rating scales allows teachers to indicate the degree or frequency of the behaviors, skills, and strategies displayed by the learner. So, dito sa rating scale natin, ang aim naman ito is for us to know the degree or yung kung yung ating range or yung frequency ng certain behaviors, skills, and strategies na na-observe natin sa ating mga learners. So, para mas maintindihan natin, gamitin natin yung analogy kanina na ginagamit natin, which is yung light switch, no? Kung sa ating checklist, no, yung on and off, yung pinapakita natin diyan, no, pagdating dito sa rating scale, no, nagpa-function ito bilang isang dimmer switch, no, na kung saan gaano kadilim or gaano kaliwanag yung bulb natin, no? Kumbaga yung range ng performance, no? Yung performance levels yung makikita natin dito gamit ang rating scales natin, no? Rating scales state the criteria and provide 3 or 4 responses to describe the quality or frequency of student work. In rating scale, the descriptive word is more important than related number. The more precise and descriptive the word for each scale point, the more reliable the tool. No? Effective rating scales use descriptors with clearly understood measures such as frequency. There are two categories under rating scale. So, number 1 dito is yung ordinal scale na tinatawag natin, no? This is a scale that depicts the answer options in an ordered manner. The difference between the two answers option may not be calculable, but the answer options will always be in a certain innate order, no? Kumbaga, pinapakita lang natin yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng ating data, no? And from the term itself, ordinal, okay, no, meron tayong ordered categories such as rankings, order, or scaling. So, for example, natin dito, no, is yung ating tinatawag na grades, student grades, no, yung ranking nila from top 1 to top 10, no, and yung rankings ng ating teams naman sa isang company. Okay, yan yung mga examples ng ordinal scales natin. No, at when we say naman interval scale, no, kung si ordinal scale, pinapakita lang niya yung ranking, no. Pagdating dito kay interval scale, from the term itself, no, yung difference between doon sa ating mga data, no, binibigyang emphasis nito, no. Interval scale is a scale where not only is the order of the answer variables established, but the magnitude of difference between each answer variable is also calculable. And also, an absolute or true zero value is not present in an interval scale. Yung pinaka-best example nito is yung ating the temperature in Celsius and Fahrenheit. Now, there are 4 primary types of rating scales: graphic, numerical, descriptive, and comparative. So, for graphic rating scale, it indicates the answer options on a scale of 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. No? Ano yung best example nitong graphic rating scale natin? Tama, it's the Likert scale, no? This is a popular graphic rating scale example. Respondents can select a particular option on a line or a scale to depict the rating, no? This rating scale is often implemented by HR managers to conduct the evaluation of employee, no? So dito makikita natin sa ating example, no, yung ating tinatawag na graphic rating scale, okay? So nakalagay diyan, express the level of satisfaction after using our products. So mamimili lang yung ating participants, no? Highly dissatisfied, dissatisfied, neutral, satisfied, and highly satisfied. Okay? Next, we have the numerical rating scale. It has numbers as answers, options, and not each number corresponds to a characteristics or meaning. For instance, a visual analog scale or semantic differential scale can be presented using numerical scale. Comparative rating scale, as the name suggests, it expects the respondents to answer a particular questions in terms of comparison based on relative measurement or keeping other organizations, products, features as reference, no? So in comparative rating scale, we will use this when we want to employ a point of comparison between products or organizations, companies, or features. Okay, so for example, we will compare or we will rate Burger King in comparison to McDonald's. A comparative rating scale allows the researcher to interpret the resulting data in relation to another company or product.